episode 25 of the debrief. And this is also our very first session live on YouTube. And I am going to set up my TikTok here and go live on there. Oh, I actually had some comments while we were live on there. See,
While we were experiencing the technical difficulties.
and I got 49 likes on it. Wow, that's impressive. Oh, I had somebody that said, dude, don't get me started on this topic, man. And then love the podcast. Hope it's all going good. Yeah. So we're going to go back live on there. I'm surprised that actually worked. So fix that. So Cody is actually the um, new co-host of the show. Cody, why don't you introduce yourself, even though you kind of already did that on episode 24?
Yeah. So my name's Cody. Every podcast needs a trusty sidekick, and Tyler couldn't find anybody better, so um, I agreed to. Um, just interested in talking to different people and finding out what their stories are.
Yeah. So if this is your first time ever um, listening to the show, there's nobody on there at the moment, but first time ever listening to the show. So the whole point of this is talk to people that work in public safety, fire, police, EMS, healthcare, nurses, doctors, military, you name it, talk to just about everybody and give them an opportunity to share their story. Everybody's got a story. If you've worked in any of those fields, everybody's got a story in general, but specifically in those fields, everybody's got a story of some kind. I got to fix my phone here so it actually shows my face. Um, and the big reason of why we started this whole thing, or why I started this whole thing, was I left public safety about 3 years ago ish. Worked in fire and EMS for about 10 years. And I
When you
just, due to
officially
mental,
left anyway.
yeah, because there was that time where I came back for a little bit. But left due to mental health issues. That was my big problem, and it was taking a toll on my family. It's taking a toll on me and my friends. I lost a lot of friends over some of the issues that I had. Um, so yeah, that and at this point, I want to help spread the word about mental health within public safety in general, not just fire and EMS, but police as well, and all the other areas. If you
Yeah, and
are,
it's well known in the public safety community that it's an issue. It's just I don't know if the general public is aware of of how much of an issue it
well,
is.
you're right. It's well known in public safety, but there's still a lot of people in public safety that want to ignore that it's even an issue. So if you are watching live on TikTok, thanks for hopping on. I'll try to, if you leave a comment or anything, I'll try to read your comments on this episode. But you can check out the podcast. We're live on YouTube, and then this will also get uploaded to whatever podcast stream platform, whatever you listen on. So it's just check out the debrief with Tyler, and you'll find it on there. Um, but yeah, so back to what we were saying. So yeah, I think a lot of people understand that it's an issue. It's just not a lot of people want to talk about it. Not a lot of people want to
Mm.
admit it. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
It's I mean it's changed a lot since when I first got in, obviously, but it's still kind of a stigmatized almost. You know, um, the aspect of you signed up for this job, take it on the chin and deal with it is still there with some people. Um, but it's an issue. It's an issue that needs to be talked about a lot more. Just so everybody that's out there that does work in public safety is, there's nothing wrong with them for feeling that way. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure. Um, I think what's really nice, if you go back to any of the other episodes that I've recorded, I've talked with people from different walks of life within public safety, and they've all pretty much shared their stories as far as mental health battles. I actually talked with somebody who's a mental health expert. Um, I don't know that she likes it that I call her that, but I'm going to continue to call her that. Uh, Kim and I sat down for quite a while and had a pretty lengthy conversation. And from time to time, we'll still shoot each other texts and be like, "Well, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And how do we fix this problem?" And so on and so forth. And so, highly recommend checking those out. I've also got actually a pretty decent list of people that have already agreed to being guests on the show. So we're going to have some really good guests coming on here soon. And I really, minus the technical issues that I've had so far with this program and with everything going on, I really like this live stream idea. I think maybe not every single episode, but maybe every once in a while, once a month, maybe do a live
little less
stream.
structured, a little bit informal.
Yeah, and that's really the whole point of the show anyway. It's not extremely formal. You don't get the catchy intro that I made on there, but it is
I
what
do
it
like
is.
that, by the way.
Me too. That was well, I'll give you the details on that after this show. All right, so there's a couple things I want to talk about on this episode. One of them was kind of recommended by a listener that we discuss, and it's having a family or relationships while you're working inside or in public safety, regardless of what it is. We'll just go ahead and include healthcare, but for the sake of this conversation, it's really just going to be about public safety because that's all Cody and I really know. Um, so I think the biggest thing, like I discussed, is mental health was a big issue for me when I finally got out, or right before I got out of fire and EMS. I struggled with sleep was rough. I mean, I think I only slept like 4 hours. I would come home in the morning and go to sleep for about 4 hours and then wake up. Some other issues were like my attitude was just horrible. I was a straight up POS. I'm kind of watching what I say since we're on YouTube. They might throw a fit about some things.
Yeah,
Um,
I did turn my filter on. So
yeah, yeah. This is probably the first and only time that I've had a filter, but so between that and I didn't want to go anywhere. I still kind of struggle with large crowds. Large crowds is kind of a trigger, unless
large
unless I go
groups
to
of
a
people and
concert.
loud noises. Oh, I can't do
Yeah,
concerts
unless
anymore.
if I go to a concert though, I have to drink a lot, and that's
Mm.
not really the healthiest thing to do.
Continuous loud noises and large groups of people can't do them.
Yeah, yeah. So we got a couple people on. Let me check the TikTok and see if there's any comments on. Oh,
I don't even have TikTok to check it.
I got two. I got two followers on there. Uh, but and so relationships inside while working public safety. I
Mm.
mean, let's be honest. Firefighters and police and even medics have a very high divorce rate. And my
Yeah,
personal opinion, I'm not.
I was actually looking at some stuff while you were having some technical difficulties. It's higher than what I even thought it was. You know,
Oh yeah.
60 to 75%.
Oh yeah.
And
It's.
it's
I
even
mean,
higher for police officers actually. Police
yeah.
officers are,
What
where was that at? Something like 80% for police officers specifically.
Well, and look at some of the people we know. Like, how many times have they been married, and how many times has they've been married, and then they finally said, "Screw it, I'm done getting married, not doing it anymore."
Or honestly, they get married, get divorced, get married, get divorced, and eventually they just end up with somebody that is also in public safety or healthcare.
Yeah. Yeah. And in all honesty, like there's multiple different reasons behind that, right? Like the dangers of the job. That's a stress factor for
Mhm.
spouses, regardless if it's husband or wife. You know, it's a stress factor. You've got
Time away
um,
from home.
yeah, I mean, you're away from home all the time. Like we worked, well, when I worked in dispatch, I was on a 4-2 schedule. So I would work 4 days on, 2 days off, and turn around and do the same thing all over again. And local police have the same schedule here.
Yeah,
Firefighters, 24/48s typically, although there are a lot of departments across the country switching to that. What is it, 48/72 or something like that?
oh, the
48/96 or
4896s. Yeah, I
yeah, that's it.
we can have an entire conversation about that. The
I mean, let's do it.
in my personal opinion, the data for that's kind of skewed in one direction. Um, and it kind of my reasonings for not liking it kind of go hand in hand with the topic of the conversation tonight. There's a lot of data out there that says it's better for firefighters long term as far as stress, cardiac issues, that type of stuff. They have more time at home. Um, and every single data point that I've seen is very skewed to the pro 4896 or whatever the number is schedule. It's people that want to have it, so they find data that backs up what they want. Um, and I would imagine if you were a young single guy, didn't have a family at home, didn't have a wife that also worked, having that type of schedule would probably be very, very, very beneficial. Um, but I know how my kids are. You've been around my kids. To leave my wife with my kids for 2 straight days, um, that would cause a lot of stress on her, and probably cause a lot of stress on our relationship in general. And that's kind of an aspect I don't think a lot of people have looked into when they're all gung ho
So
about switching for that.
I agree with you, but when you look at some of these departments that are really busy departments, I mean, let's take Chicago, or let's take Chicago might be too busy of a department for this. Let's take Indianapolis Fire Department, for example. Indianapolis Fire Department is a huge department. It's not the biggest in the country, but it's a decent sized department. And they are fairly busy. I'm sure that they have overtime like crazy. Like I'm sure they're doing higher backs all the time. I mean, Fort Wayne Fire is that way. They're doing higher backs all the time. So a lot of these guys are already working, guys and gals are already working 48-hour shifts, but then they're turning around and they only get 24 hours off. Well, you know just as well as I do that that 24 hours off is like a reset. You don't even have time to do anything else. It's not like you
Mm-hmm.
have time to go to, do some activities with your kids or anything like that. Like you're still getting over even working 24 hours, let alone working 48.
Oh, that's a 24 hour. That's 24 hours worth of recovery, is what that is. That's not a day off.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I don't know how anybody else is, but I sleep like absolute garbage at work at the station. So
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because I haven't looked it up. I'm sure there's a statistic out there somewhere, but how many firefighters that work the 24/48 hour shift are on CPAP, like they have sleep apnea? Probably a pretty large portion because I mean you're waking
okay,
up in the middle of the night constantly. You're not getting the greatest of sleep. So your body is always anticipating, even when you're home, your body's anticipating those tones to go off at any minute. So you're not really sleeping the greatest. So I don't think
I
you're
mean,
the only one. I think a lot of people
I
struggle with that.
I'd be interested to see if there was any actual studies or data as far as CPAP usage in the fire service. I mean, without calling anybody out that I work with, there's quite a few of my guys that sleep with CPAP.
Yeah. Well, and what's funny is I can name
And
one department. I'm not
they're
going
young
to.
guys too.
Yeah. I can name one department that at least two of their shifts at one engine house, the entire crew is on CPAP. And it's not like they're all, super obese or anything like that. Like most of the guys are pretty physically fit, but it's just like I said, they're waking up in the middle of the night. And actually somebody on TikTok over here made a comment that it's definitely not great for mental health. I totally agree. Though just the shift alone and the constant waking up in the middle of the night, I don't think it's that great. You look
Oh,
at
I don't want to
FDNY.
be I don't want to be at home or away from home for 2 hours or two days rather, not 2 hours.
Yeah,
Sometimes 2 hours away from the home is nice. Um,
right.
but um, I don't want to. I love my job, but I don't want to spend 2 days there.
Yeah, no, I agree. You look at FDNY though. FDNY, now granted, their call volume is absolutely insane, but they work what 8 hour shifts or 12-hour shifts, something like that.
Yeah, some of those busier big city fire departments are they either do 8 hour shifts or 12 hour shifts. Some of them.
Yeah. Chicago still does, as far as I know, Chicago still does 24/48s, and a lot of those guys do voluntary hire backs all the time. Like they love the overtime pay.
I mean, I suppose there's a difference between voluntarily doing it and then getting mandated to do it as well.
Oh,
There's a
don't even get me started on mandates.
there. I mean, there's a different psychological aspect that goes with that. But
Yeah.
I'm a if funding allows, I'm for the 24/72s.
Yeah, kind of back to the mandates. I don't agree with mandates either. I don't care if you're working 24-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts, 8-hour shifts. I don't care. I don't agree with the mandates. If you First of all, it's not great for mental health, like to force somebody to have to come in and work extra shifts on their scheduled time off. But if you feel like you're in a position where you have to force somebody that bad, there's an issue. Like either one, you need to hire more people, and if the argument is, well, we're hiring, but we're behind the eight ball. Well, yeah, you're behind the eight ball because chances are at one point or another, you went an entire year without hiring anybody due to political reasons or whatever, because we know that's happened already.
Oh, everybody's short staffed. Everybody needs to hire people, and everybody's behind the eight ball as far as hiring goes. Because usually by the
Yeah.
time you figure out, usually by the time you get approved to be able to hire somebody, you've been short staffed for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I don't agree with mandates. I think that is just a culture killer. Like it just burns people out more. I think it forces people to want to leave the field, and the public safety is not in any position right now to be losing people like you just mentioned. We're everybody's short staffed. The last thing we want to do is push the people out that are still here.
Right? No, you're
Yeah.
absolutely right.
So kind of back to the topic at hand. We were talking about relationships in public safety, and so we kind of discussed, the schedule sucks. Um, the the stress of the job doesn't help things.
Well, and there's some
Um,
aspect of it just unfamiliarity with what we do amongst spouses and significant others too. Um, I'm lucky in that my wife grew up around the fire department, or not necessarily the fire department, but having her dad as a volunteer firefighter her entire life, she kind of gets some of it. And she works in healthcare as well. She gets some of it, but there's even some of that type. Some even with that, there's still stuff that I do at work that I don't tell her.
do you can you hear me okay on the mic?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Somebody was saying that they were only able to hear me on TikTok for whatever reason. But I got my phone on TikTok and I saw the text come through my iPad, so I wasn't sure. I'm not even sure who it was that sent the text.
No, on my end, I can hear you fine.
Hmm. Well, for those that have stuck with us this far, 20 minutes into the episode, um, this is definitely a test to see how this goes. So we'll be making some adjustments the more often we do this. So it'll get better.
Yeah. Once once
Um,
once once us old guys figure out how to use technology.
well, and like I was telling Cody earlier, is I switched platforms. So I was using one hosting platform to do all my recordings on. I was doing my editings on it. It was a good program, but it wasn't the greatest. So the one I switched to actually came highly recommended by somebody that I look up to that's in the big in the EMS healthcare world. So I switched to this one, and so far I like it. I mean, it's a lot easier to do editing on and everything. So,
Mm.
um, all
Google
right.
tells
So,
me that one of the bigger things with public safety relationships that cause problems is poor communication skills.
I mean, not wrong, but okay. So since we opened up that can of worms of poor communication skills, totally agree. The problem is most of the people in this field feel like, myself included, feel like we can't tell our families everything that we've gone through because we don't want to force that on them. We don't want them to have to go through the pain of the crap that we just witnessed or dealt with. We don't want them to worry even more while we're out working. Like
Hmm.
we don't tell them everything, and that's probably not the healthiest thing in the world to do, but at the end of the day, that's really what
Yeah,
happens.
my wife literally got frustrated with me a couple days ago getting off work. She asked me how was work, and I was like, it's all right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I mean, that was pretty much my answer to everything is, it was all right. Nothing crazy. Every once in a while I'd throw her a bone and I would tell her something, but granted my wife works in healthcare, so she would see probably a fraction of the patients that I would bring in, but nonetheless.
No, I mean my wife works for one of the local hospitals, just the same as yours, and occasionally see her in the ER when you bring something in. So a lot of the stuff, well, I can't really not tell her about that one. She's
Yeah,
also taking care of the same patient. Um,
right. Yeah, so I agree. Communication is a big deal as well. I don't know. This doesn't show me if anybody's commenting on YouTube or not, and they may not be. Uh, I wonder if there's any comments on there. Oh, goodness, that was a bad idea. Yeah, I don't see any comments on there right now, but uh, TikTok, if you guys got any questions or topics or things you want us to go over, drop the message down below.
I'm sure one of us has an opinion on it.
Anyway, yeah, I'm sure one of us has an opinion. Otherwise, if you want to hear Cody's response, you'll have to go over to YouTube because for whatever reason, TikTok makes things difficult and you have to have a certain amount of followers before you can stream live from whatever program you're using. With that being said, if you follow me on TikTok, I will return the favor and I'll follow you. So let's try to increase that followship. Followship? Is that a word?
Sure.
I don't know. I just made it up. Uh, all right. So the big thing that I really wanted to talk about. So I stepped out of public safety and I got into occupational health and safety. Obviously, no secret to Cody, um, because I think we talk nearly every day. His wife's probably either thanking me for that or she's sick of it at this point. I'm not really sure.
Hey, how you
Uh,
doing? Hour and a half later.
you're right. Yeah. I literally just called to ask you a question and we're still talking. So one of the things I wanted to talk
It's like a
about.
Wikipedia rabbit hole.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to talk about safety issues in the fire service. And these are a lot of things that um, we don't really think about. I could tell you a good portion of these that I'm going to bring up, I never thought about when I worked in fire and EMS. There's probably one thing that I thought about in EMS, but definitely not in the fire service. So we were talking earlier about OSHA and how often OSHA shows up to a fire department. And the big answer is pretty much never, unless you have a line of duty death. If you have a line of duty death in your department, they come out of the woodworks. And then when you get on the topic of OSHA standards, now I'm probably going to mess this up for anybody who's an OSHA expert. I se- seriously apologize ahead of time. Kind of running by the seat of my pants on this, but when you talk about OSHA standards, the standards are already outdated. Like they were outdated in the 90s even. They're most of the standards come from the 80s. So we got that issue. But standards in the fire service is its own separate thing and a lot of times they don't have to follow the same they don't always have to follow the same standards, especially in the construction field. And a perfect example of that is fall protection. Cody, how many harnesses does your department have? Like true fall protection harnesses?
Not counting the ladder belts.
Nope, not counting ladder belts.
Zero.
Big fat zero. And why is that? Why is that? Majority of the departments across the country have refused to go to harnesses. And it's pretty simple why. Like harnesses are difficult to put on even when you don't have bunker gear on. Like it takes a little bit of time. So then you add a bunker coat into the mix and it's even more difficult. Now you're going to have somebody that's going to help you put this on, plus pants and all that crap. It's a giant mess. So primarily, the majority of the departments in the country they just utilize fall belts, and fall belts are probably, I don't know, they're probably one of the more dangerous things you could use when you're working at heights. I mean, you've got a lot of things that could happen. One, there's not going to be you're going to absorb the falling impact. Like it's going to be an immediate stop. It's not going to be the greatest. It's all going to go to your hips. The other problem with that is if you don't get that belt on tight enough, the chances of you slipping out of that if you fall are pretty freaking high. And construction industry used to use fall belts. That was all they used. I'm pretty sure, don't quote me, I'm pretty sure they stopped using fall belts probably back in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, maybe even early 2000s. And construction's usually like dead last in making changes too. So that's an issue. Um, Another thing that I don't think a lot of departments, Cody, you'll have to let me know if your department does this. And I'm hoping I get some people that leave a comment on TikTok or something to let me know. But do you guys keep track of your near misses that happen on scenes or inside the station?
I personally don't know if we do or not. Um,
Do you report them in the system at all?
I don't know that we have a reporting system for it or not. If it does occur, I'm not aware of it. I've never reported anything along those lines. So
So, the previous departments that I've been on, to the best of my knowledge, we did not keep track of near misses within within the station or on scenes or anything like that. In fact, one of the departments that I was on, I'm pretty sure I had in 10 years, I think I had like 2 injuries. And I don't even think those were like reported the way they were supposed to. So there's that.
Honestly, I've only worked in one system where we were required to, or encouraged to rather, and that's when I worked EMS for a regional hospital
Yeah.
EMS provider.
So here's my big thing about it. And in the what's the word? In normal jobs that people work outside of public safety, a lot of leadership is afraid of near misses for whatever reason. Like that was one of the big struggles that I had in a previous job was getting people to report near misses. They didn't want to report them because they thought it was going to make them look bad or they were going to get in trouble for it or whatever. People don't understand that when you keep track and you report near misses, that helps you eliminate something that could become a serious injury or incident or whatever. And for whatever reason in the fire service, we really don't keep track of those. At least not all departments. I'm sure there's quite a few that do, but I
You
can
keep
name
track
quite
of
a
a
few
lot of them.
incidents. I can name quite a few incidents that have happened that were, there was a near miss that had occurred before that we probably could have saved that incident from occurring if we reported it and we reviewed it as a team and made adjustments as necessary to keep that from happening again.
No, it definitely is something that could help prevent injuries, help prevent serious injury. Um, I can see that. I mean, like I said, if it was something where we would actually report that for in the type of job that I do specifically, probably would be quite a few occasions in which reporting would be necessary. But like I said, I it's not even very prevalent. Not just the fire service, but EMS. And I if anybody from the any of the police agencies is watching, they can comment on that from that aspect of it because that's a side of things that I'm completely unfamiliar with. But just the one organization was the only where you were required to report it. So definitely could help if that was something that a cultural shift, we'll call it, happened, and that was something that became more prevalent.
Yeah, and in all honesty, like if if a department wanted if a department wanted to do this, they would. But if a department wanted to have people keep track of near misses, have them report them. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. It's not like you have to type up a NIFRS report or you have to type up a chart or whatever. Like just, fill in a spreadsheet or something saying what the near miss was, where it was at, what caused it, that sort of thing. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. And keep track of it. And then maybe once a month or quarterly or annually or something, everybody just gets together and reviews those. What were our top three near misses? What can we do to improve those and keep those from happening again? And it doesn't have to be just inside the station. I mean, I was looking up, let me pull this up again. So I was looking up line of duty deaths from 2024. Okay. So there were 72 on duty firefighter fatalities on duty. Um, and during that, 34 were career firefighters, 32 were volunteer. So put in percentage perspective, 47% were career, 44% were volunteer. 36% of them were on scene. of a fire. 19.5% were on scene, but it was a non-fire related incident. Almost 17% was training, and then 15% was uh, other on duty, which the whole other thing drives me nuts because there's got to be something specific you can put in these.
Right. I'm actually
Uh,
surprised at the number of training deaths. That number surprised
uh,
me.
yeah, well, and I'm gonna break that down a little bit more, and it'll probably explain why that's the case. Um, so almost 32% of the fatalities were at a structure fire. 30%, actually 30.5%, were not incident related. Not as many motor vehicle accidents resulting in line of duty death as you would think. There was only 6 in the country. I mean,
And
one
we're
is too
bad
many,
at
but
using seatbelts.
yeah. So, cause of fatal injury. This really shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that's listening, but almost 53% of the line of duty deaths were due to stress and overexertion. And we were literally just talking about that.
Mhm. We're stressed and out of shape.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of departments that have started to increase uh, their fitness requirements. Um, I think a lot of departments could do better at that than what they're pushing. But the fact that some have actually increased their expectations is nice.
But that goes in line with some of what I was talking about with this the safety aspect of it and the reporting near misses. It's a cultural thing inside your agency, inside your department that needs to change.
Uh, 2 of the line of duty deaths were from falls. 50%. So we're in nature of fatal injury now. 50% was due to cardiovascular event, heart attack. That's 36 out of however many line of duty deaths I mentioned. 19 of them were from trauma of some sort. 2 were from heat exhaustion.
From heat exhaustion?
Yeah. Uh, age of firefighter when the fatal injury was sustained. The the percent of firefighter fatalities age 40 and under, 79%.
Young guys.
It's 29% of firefighters age 61 and over. And then 26% ages 51 to 60, 20 almost 24% 41 to 50.
Where are you pulling your data from, Tyler? Just from my own curiosity.
I am pulling it from FEMA,
Ah,
which that's probably going to throw me in a whole nother category now that I mentioned FEMA on TikTok and YouTube. Algorithm's going to lose its mind now.
it's okay. We weren't talking bad, YouTube.
This was kind of odd. So 15, it's actually 15.28%. So 11 of the line of duty deaths occurred in September.
Hmm.
I wonder why in September.
What if
They
it's
also,
just random, or if there's actually some reasoning
I don't
behind
know.
that?
I would have to pull up, if you're pulling up on the website, put in 2023's data. Let's see if those numbers are still the same.
Well, my computer just
Um,
had a seizure, so
oh, nice. You have a brand new computer.
Doesn't mean I know how to
Pennsylvania
use
had
it.
right. Pennsylvania had the most line of duty deaths last year with 7. Indiana tied for 4th with 4 line of duty deaths. Yeah. So for anybody that's listening that has still stuck with us through all of these statistics and everything, you can pull all that information up from FEMA's website. It's actually under the U.S. Fire Administration. You just go to their website and go over to statistics, and you can break it down even more so for whatever it is that you're looking for. If you're looking for something specific, like you want to know how many career firefighters died from cardiac arrests during training, you can actually break that down and it'll give you the numbers. So I think the U.S. Fire Administration has done a really good job making their website a little bit better and more user friendly.
As I'm struggling to use it.
Yeah. You can also go in and I mean there's just so many things. There's Fire Academy information. There's a NIFRS tab, prevention that gives you a whole bunch of different materials for fire prevention. I mentioned statistics. There's an EMS section. There's a wildfire section. There's just so much information. Highly recommend you check it out, especially going back to what we were just talking about, where we don't really look at near misses. And I think some departments are better at it than others, but I think I don't think people review the line of duty deaths. Like I could tell you one time, maybe 2 times that I ever pulled up a NIFRS report, not a NIFRS report, a I can't remember what the agency's name is, but pulled up a report after a line of duty death. What?
Is that NIOSH?
NIOSH, yes. Pulled up a NIOSH report and actually reviewed their investigation of the line of duty death. I only did it twice. I think it's beneficial that we in fire service and in EMS that people look at that information and say, okay, so this is what happened during that incident that led up to this firefighter or medic or whatever dying in the line of duty. Here's how we can fix it.
Yeah. Oddly enough, I could not find the 2023 statistics, but I was able to pull up 2022's.
What's 2022 say?
So you've got 94 overall line of duty deaths for firefighters. 38 of those were career, 49 volunteer, and 7 wildland guys and gals.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I think there's 6 or 7 wildland in 2024 too.
The main cause again, stress and overexertion. 37.
Yeah. Yeah, stress and overexertion I think has been the main cause for the last 10 to 15 years, if not longer.
And vehicle collisions was the second highest. 17 of those were from vehicle accidents. And then there's actually some COVID-19 exposures on here for 22. Was there any of those for 24?
Are you trying to mess up the algorithm for me? I'm not even going to repeat what you just said.
I'm reading it from FEMA's website, so it's okay.
Oh boy. Mentioning FEMA again.
Hey, you started it. Good things. Only good things. Good things only being said. No. So a lot of those I think they're categorizing as stress or overexertion kind of fall into some of the cardiac events because they're listing 33 firefighters died from heart attacks. So I'd be
we do have. Say that again.
I said I'd be curious to see where that breakdown of stress and overexertion is.
Yeah.
Oh,
So jumping back in, I think, like I said, it's important that departments review this information. I'm not saying you got to go through every single line of duty death because obviously, as of lately, we've been hitting 90, over 100, sometimes even more line of duty deaths across the country. In the grand scheme of things, I don't even want to say it. Like one is too many. One line of duty death is too many. But in the grand scheme of things, when you consider how many firefighters there are across the country, 90 or so isn't awful. It's not near as bad as it used to be back in the 90s, the 80s. I mean, going backwards, it's not near as bad as it used to be.
well,
But
there's
I think it's
safety has come a long way, but we could definitely do a lot better.
I agree. I think safety has come a long way. It's gotten better than. I mean, we're not riding on tailboards anymore. We're not, doing crazy stuff like that. Most departments aren't drinking in the fire station anymore. Like
I
things
hope
have
none of them are.
improved. Well, I think I could name at least one department that is, but it's not a local department, and I'm not going to put them on blast. But I think it's important that we talk about this more. People talk about this more. Uh, I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but going over the near misses and um, learning from other departments' mistakes can these numbers can drastically decrease even more. And I think everybody, and I primarily am kind of calling out volunteer departments because where I live now, there's most of the departments in my area are volunteer still. Um, and across the country, the vast majority of firefighters are volunteer firefighters now. And if you are doing this job for free and you're not making any money off of it because you love what you do, you still should be invested in this information as well. You should be trying to do what you can to make sure that you're staying safe and everybody else is staying safe too.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So the only other thing that I kind of wanted to mention, um, I'm a big advocate for plan, train, act, and debrief. Okay, so plan ahead of time. Whether go and do a walkthrough of a new construction of a building, or you've got a business or multiple businesses within your coverage area. You should be going and doing walkthroughs through those businesses as often as you can. Um, that gives you an idea of what the layout is, where hazards are located at throughout the building. New construction,
Pre-fire
they're
planning.
constantly,
It's big.
yeah, pre-fire planning. New construction, that's a big thing going in some of these. I mean, there's new neighborhoods going up everywhere. There's new houses being built everywhere. Go and walk around when people aren't working or even when they are. Go walk around and see if you can see the new layouts. With new houses being built, there's new plans being made every day, and the stuff that we used to learn in strategy and tactics and all that stuff is starting to change again. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. So that's plan. Definitely want to plan ahead of time. Train. I mean, train for different scenarios and different situations. If you get an opportunity to be able to do a training at I don't know, a factory or business or something, um, think of different scenarios outside the box situations that can occur there. Act, put everything in motion. When you get a structure fire somewhere, remember the training that you went through. Obviously, most departments nowadays are training every single shift, but there's still some out there that aren't. So the training is the big thing, but now you got to put it into motion. And you need to rely on that training and rely on each other. And then when you're done, you debrief. Everybody has a sit down conversation, whether it's close to immediate after that incident, or you have a conversation the next shift, but talk about what happened, what went right, what went wrong, what can you do to be better, and what can the team do better. And it needs to be open dialogue. People need to understand that uh, this isn't being done to attack anybody. This isn't being done to call anybody out, but it's something that you're doing to help learn from the situation, help to learn to be better. Because at the end of the day, everybody wants to go home safe. Everybody wants to go home at the end of their shift. These are the best ways to do it, in my opinion. What else we got, Cody?
Oh, I got nothing, man. No, I've got nothing to add to that, good sir.
Yeah, I think we do have a comment. I figured out how to be able to read comments that people leave on YouTube. So um, your body can't possibly recuperate in the lifestyle conditions for the schedules you guys work. It's like you mentioned, people are afraid they'll get in trouble or get their coworker in trouble. Yeah, I mean, I
Oh, I
totally
just found
agree.
it in the chat.
Oh, you figured it out too?
Well, I just noticed I had a flashing little notification in the bottom right.
Mm, yeah.
I wish I would have saw that or seen that as we were talking, though.
Yeah, me too. But at least we know where it's at now.
It's a work
Um,
in progress, everyone.
yeah. So if you have stuck with us through this cluster of a first live session on either TikTok or on uh, YouTube, I appreciate you greatly for hanging out this whole time. We will get better at this, hopefully.
We
But
will.
yeah, appreciate y'all. This episode and all future episodes when we do live will go um, on the podcast, whatever platform you listen on Sunday morning. And it's just the raw episode. I'm not going to do any editing to it. That's what we talked about here is going right on the podcast. So good, bad, or indifferent, that's where it's going. If you appreciate what we talked about or you have suggestions of things that we can talk about next time, feel free to shoot us a message on the website, which is debriefwithtyler.com. There you can give give us recommendations of people to talk to, topics to discuss. Got some blog posts. I had some hits of people that want to write some blogs. So hopefully we can get some of those on there. Um, yeah, Cody, you got any closing remarks?
No, but we actually just had a suggestion pop up, or just rather
Wait,
another message regards to heat
oh yeah,
stress.
yeah. So the heat stress, yeah, I agree. So I'll read the comment for everybody that's wondering. So it says heat stress. A lot of that is recuperating while off sleep health. I think there's a lot of factors in this, right? You're fighting a structure fire, doing interior attack. These newer homes are burning a lot hotter than the old ones, um, and they're burning hotter and faster. So you've got the heat from that. A lot of people, not all, a lot of people like to be the go getters and they don't necessarily want to take breaks when they should when you're fighting a structure fire. I know I was really bad at it. I would come out. Our policy was if you had two bottle refills, then you had to take, I think it was a 10 or 15-minute break or something like that.
Yeah, that's pretty much
Um,
the standard around these parts anyway. It's two bottles and then you
yeah.
go to rehab.
Yeah.
Um,
And during rehab, you would get your blood pressure checked, your pulse checked, and of course it's going to be high. I mean, you're moving around a lot, you're fighting fire, you're in a hot environment, so your stuff's going to be high. As long as it's going down, while you're resting. That's the important thing, right? But none of us ever wanted to take that time off. We wanted to go back in and start fighting fire. And I think that's part of the issue of why we're seeing heat stress and heat related illnesses and however many line of duty deaths it was uh, as a result of heat related illnesses.
Yeah, and the vast majority of this population, and I'm sure firefighters are just as bad, um, are walking around chronically dehydrated to begin with, which
Oh, yeah.
contributes to that heat stress and the health problems associated with that. I walked into work yesterday with an energy drink and drank a half pot of coffee. That doesn't do anybody any good.
Right.
But I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not the only one out there. I try to do better myself with that, and I try to um, stress hydration on my guys, but um, just lack of being properly hydrated, I think, contributes significantly to that. When you're already going to be sweating from the adrenaline dump going to that run. You're going to exert yourself. You're going to sweat that much more, and during the summer, you could potentially come out of that heated structure that was on fire, and there's no relief because it's 80 90 degrees with the same percentage humidity. So
Yeah.
there is no relief when you come out of the structure sometimes.
Right. Yeah. And that, brings up a good point to kind of wrap things up with. You know, oh, hold on. TikTok is having a malfunction apparently.
TikTok.
Oh, goodness gracious. I had to drag a puzzle piece to prove that I'm like still on here, and then I just didn't let it play random. Uh, but I think something that we all forget about, myself included, is we forget to stay hydrated in the wintertime. You don't get near as
Yes.
thirsty as quick. You're more concerned with drinking coffee and in my case energy drinks because you want to wake up because it's a little more difficult to wake up when it's cold outside and it's still dark and all that. But that's a big thing. We need to make sure we're staying hydrated all year long. Drink 100 ounces of water or 120 ounces of water a day. I'm just as bad about it, but
I
something to
mean,
consider.
even on your off days,
Yeah.
just while you're at
Yeah.
work.
Even on your off days. Yep. And if you feel like you're thirsty, you're already behind the eight ball at that point.
Yeah.
So
All right.
cool. All right. Any final remarks from you, Mr. Randall?
Other than that last comment, just sent me down a rabbit hole of the internet about heat stress and the fire service.
Well, you got about a minute and a half if you want to talk about something.
Oh, I'm not going to sit here and read off National Institute of Health studies on it.
Oh yeah. Now you just messed up the algorithm again.
I mean,
Can't
I'm
talk
a
about NIH.
especially with the other things I've mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah. NIH, FEMA. What was the other one?
We won't say it now.
All right. Let's wrap it up.
No,
So
it's been an adventure.
it's been an adventure.
Yeah, trying to figure this out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I appreciate y'all if you stuck with us this whole time. We're gonna wrap things up, and I will do a better job of putting this out a little bit more in advance when we're going to be doing a live session. So with that, I appreciate y'all. Stay safe out there, and we will catch y'all next time.
Thanks for listening.
And for the TikTok single follower that's been following this whole time, you are the